Welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr., and you are watching Yankees Unloaded, which is a show, in case you're new here, where we cover the best baseball team in the MLB. I mean, that's really, Gary, can I just say it now? I mean, this is the best team in not just the American League. They're the best team in the league. Statistically, that's the case as well. They've surpassed the Phillies for the time being. They're 27-11 on the road. They're 49-21 on the season. They have the best baseball player in the world in Aaron Judge. They have maybe the second best baseball player in the world in Juan Soto right now. Anthony Volpe isn't bad at the leadoff spot. Very electrifying there, especially on the base paths. You have
best pitcher in the world, not even pitching, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. And you have Giancarlo Stanton just nuking bombs. I mean, that today, another 440 something home run, like it was just nothing. So they are absolutely must watch TV. Jose Trevino hit an absolute bullet into the seats, 3-run shot. He's up to 272. So right back into that potential discussion, whether or not he becomes an all-star. Like I always say, you only have to play one good half of the season to be an all-star. Even Torres found the seats in this one, and it was not a 2-strike pitch. It was a full leg kick, and the dude drilled it. Fun day
nice little
today.
Surprise.
Fun day today, Gary. But before we get started, I also have to bring up the fact that Verdugo had himself a very quiet 2 RBI day. Okay, can't forget about Verdugo, who pretty much, I would say, got the party started with a 2-run base knock there. Rizzo had the sac fly, and then you had Trevino putting up, a 6 spot in the first inning. And at that point, the Yankees had just declared victory. I mean, at any point, Kansas City could have just waved the white flag, literally walked off the field, would have made as much sense as playing out this game and losing 11-5.
Yeah. Do you realize that Verdugo's driven in 37?
Yeah, he's really good with the bases loaded. And you see the level swing, and we talk about this all the time. This is literally what they wanted to do. They're sacrificing a ton of home runs. They could have gotten a left fielder who hits 30, 40 bombs a year and strikes out 200 times and bats 220. But they were like, no, we're going to get Verdugo, who's going to hit around 260. He's going to get the bat on the ball, put it in play, have productive outs, but when he's not having those productive outs, he's going to have productive at-bats that lead to runs being scored for his team.
Yeah, and a lot of that's opportunity, by the way, Jake, because think of it this way. The Yankees, and Aaron Boone deserves a ton of credit. They decided at the beginning of this year, first of all, in years past, we never had any lefties at all. For whatever reason, it took them years to decide, hey, you know what I realized? Throwing up 8 righties in a row just wasn't going to work. This year, the Yankees did it different. Obviously, the well-documented signing of Juan Soto via trade. And then, of course, you bring in Alex Verdugo, maybe the less sexy pickup. But again, Boone decided, I'm going to platoon these guys. And those 2 guys are Giancarlo Stanton and Alex Verdugo. Because when we face a lefty, you notice Giancarlo's in the 4 spot. Every time we face a righty, Verdugo's in the 4 spot. And that's part of the reason why you see so much opportunity for guys to put balls in play, make quality outs. And then, of course, they're coming up with guys in scoring position. We used to play baseball, especially the Yankees of all teams. I know this is a Major League Baseball issue where everyone's just waiting around for home runs, but this Yankees team doesn't do that, okay? We don't do that. We're finding other ways to score. Now, when we put the ball in the seats, you can pretty much put a fork in you. We're beating you. But I'll say this. If the Yankees show up to the yard and there's a really good pitcher on the mound, right? A couple days ago, we were talking about Singer and how good of stuff he had. And we show up to the yard and we're actually putting balls in play on really good pitches, 2-strike pitches. We're actually doing a job. That's something Verdugo has brought to the table. Juan Soto brought that to the table. So everyone else, guys like Volpe can be hitting triples, and Juan Soto, you're talking about Aaron Judge, right? Putting the ball in the seats. He's got 20-some home runs already. That's the sexy stuff. But the reason that we have 50 wins or 49 wins, whatever we got, I think it's 49.
It'll be 50 tomorrow.
50 tomorrow. the reason we have this is because we have a different mentality offensively. And then, of course, Matt Blake he just squeezed the lemon with this staff. I mean, how many people thought we were going to be getting there's some guys on the mound this year that flat out no one thought we were getting production from. Nobody. Everyone thought that Marcus Stroman would be hovering. I mean, where did we have him, by the way? Marcus Stroman, our prediction, around 4 ERA?
3.96, I think mine was.
A 3.96, right? We were over the target on Rodon, but that was more skill set, more understandable to see that type of rebound. Maybe less so about Matt Blake. Yeah, but we were thinking Clark Schmidt, right? We were thinking Marcus Stroman, Nestor Cortez. Those 3 guys had to just be productive, hover around 4. Matt Blake has found a way, and of course we have to give the players credit as well. Look what they've done. These guys, they look like solid contending 3s, like 2s and 3s. For whatever reason, laced around our rotation. Garrett Cole hasn't even sniffed a mound, and the shit doesn't matter. It just does not matter right now. So, again, we got a lot of positive performance from players that we just really weren't expecting it. And when you have that, and then the stars come out to play, well, our win-loss speaks for itself. And I completely agree with you. We are the best team in the American League, if not the entirety of Major League Baseball. But I'll say this. We came out and we made a statement so far in this Kansas City series. Kansas City plays great at home. We talked about it last game, but let's be clear. The Yankees came in and didn't care, right? They were dealing with an ailing Juan Soto. We didn't know when he was going to come back in this series. He showed up and immediately made an impact. We're a problem in Major League Baseball. And by the way, last thing I'll say, it's got to be a little demoralizing if you're the Baltimore Orioles. You go 8 for your last you're 8 for your last 10 games, right? You've won 6 games in a row, and we're still 2.5 games ahead of Baltimore. Huge series coming up against them. It's going to be a lot of fun covering that series because, again, I've said this plenty. You've said it plenty. That Baltimore team is no joke. You look up, they're winning every night just like we are. And it's going to come down to head-to-head matchups if we want to win this division or not, because, frankly, with this good of a team, it would be a shame to come out the wild card. So it's going to be fun.
No, absolutely it is. And, I look at it, yeah, absolutely. Like they probably are like, oh, this is demoralizing. At the same time, if you don't win those games, the Yankees are up 8 games, right? Whatever. So,
yeah.
It puts you, winning when you're ahead is even better because it puts pressure on everybody else. Poteet was great. I understand, he gave up 2 earned runs. I don't really care. I mean, to get a 5 1/3 out of him, 3-0 on the year, 2.14 ERA. A guy that really just, he's not trying to strike out guys, just generate soft contact, get outs. He does a really good job of it. He's effective. Only 88 pitches were thrown. I really like the guy. Now, there are some issues in the bullpen. Hamilton is starting to really lose it. He's been having issues as of late. Canely is struggling. I mean, it's okay to admit that now. He's got a 5.68 ERA. I know he just started and came back from the injury, so we'll see. Really, right now, Ferguson actually got his ERA below 5, believe it or not. But he still gives up tons of hits, which is the issue. Right now, Clay Holmes, and I would say Luke Weaver are really the only guy, and Marinaccio. Those are the 3 guys, the only guys I trust in the bullpen right now. That's concerning, but to me, the Yankees are seeing this. They see Canely. They're giving him a shot. They're giving Hamilton a shot to work their way out of this. We've seen in the past, Marinaccio has been very important to this team, but when he started to struggle, he didn't even make this team to start the year. So my thing here is I just want to let people know they're not locked in with any of these guys. If Luke Weaver were to have a horrible second half of the year, he'd be DFA'd. It's really that simple. These guys are very easy to move around, manipulate,
which is honestly
all that.
Kind of a good problem to have because we don't really have any big contracts to deal with in this bullpen. It's kind of first come, first serve. You're the hot pitcher. I'm going to go to you. And Aaron Boone's kind of shown this year, if you're one of those guys that builds trust, because in my opinion, Weaver has shown, yeah, I mean, his ERA is hovering in the mid twos, which everything's not about ERA. Of course, spin related, location related, and they're watching the games. They're seeing what the contact looked like. Weaver earlier this year was giving up a lot of hard contact. And as the years gone on, that contact has diminished. And so, of course, Boone should have more confidence in him. But like you said, we're not really tied to any of these guys. If the Yankees go flip and go get some guy, because you have to remember again, Jake, Garrett Cole is going to be on the horizon. And also, a lot of people are looking at Garrett Cole and thinking he has to have a heavy pitch count on. But this is where I bite back on it. In my opinion, the way the Yankees are playing, and they're playing excellent, of course, it allows Garrett Cole to build himself up physically in the minor leagues. Once he's built up, then he goes to the big leagues. We don't need to pitch him 50 pitches, okay? We're not behind the 8 ball and have to bring out Ian Hamilton in the 5th or 6th inning and go 4 with our pen, right? And just blow guys out. In my opinion, when Garrett Cole shows back up and pitches in pinstripes again, he should be ready to be extended, ready to pitch the way we see Garrett Cole pitch. So having said that, I think based on the reinforcements we have in our rotation and how good those guys are pitching, I'm not worried about Canley, Ferguson. I'm not really worried about those guys because, to be honest with you, if you look around Major League Baseball, every team's got a Ferguson. They've got multiple Fergusons, okay? And again, Ferguson can absolutely be upgraded. I wouldn't lose any sleep if he was gone tomorrow. I really wouldn't. But again, there's plenty of guys on contending teams, Baltimore, right, where guys are trying to work it out the pen, try to figure out their stuff, but most of the team is on their stuff. And that's the reason they're winning ball club. So, yeah, I'm not worried about our bullpen. I completely agree with you. Some guys are trending in the wrong direction. But what baseball team has everybody firing on all cylinders all at once? I don't know one, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I mean, there are other guys as well. Yoendris Gomez, who has actually pitched well in the minors. Josh Mazejewski, I forget how to say his name, but he was up and he actually pitched a little bit. I think he pitched an inning earlier in the year. So those are some options. I do have to give credit where credit's due. Didn't mention Victor Gonzalez. He's been very good, to be fair. And Michael Tonkin has been unbelievable. 0.89 ERA since joining the Yankees, a 0.93 whip, 19 strikeouts and 20 and a third. Yeah, okay. Put Michael Tonkin in there. I don't even care. I don't care. He's considered the memeable guy, but in reality, Tonkin's been as good as anybody in the bullpen. And that feels good to say. Nick Birdie was kind of the guy in spring training. They were really high on. They loved his stuff. They were, the injuries, but they felt like that was behind him. Unfortunately, we're coming to realize injuries aren't always behind you just because it sounds nice. And Birdie has dealt with multiple injuries this year already. I don't think you can rely on Birdie at all. And I know you've mentioned Birdie gives up hits. He's still got a 1.86 ERA, but he's got a 1.45 whip. Okay, my issue with him is he walks everybody. So I don't even think he gives up that many hits. I think it's just walks. 9 walks, only 5 hits given up.
How many guys has he walked this year, by the way?
He's walked 9 in 9 2/3.
Yeah, that's dog shit. That's terrible.
Yeah. So, right now, I think they're open for business at the deadline to get some bullpen guys. Now, I look forward to the episode where you and I can kind of dive into who makes sense there, because I'm sure there are guys there. We need to be able to do our research first. We're not going to just do it on the fly on the show.
It's not always going to end up to make right. That's the sexy pickup, right? Class A sexy pickup. But most contenders, a few years ago, Andrew Miller was like the high prize guy, right? Everybody wanted Andrew Miller. And not every World Series team has to pick up the high prize guy. So having said that, I think I totally agree with you. We need to take our time. and look at these guys, every name across baseball, because more than likely, it's not just is a guy good. The guy has to be excellent. You have to be willing to give up the prospects it's going to cost for that team to agree to the trade. And that team also has to be losing. Okay. So like all
Exactly.
these things are at work. You're not just going to be able to look at the Phillies and be like, wow, we can really use that arm out the pen. Would love to have him in pinstripes. It's like, well, no shit. The guys they've got to want to get rid of him. Right. So there has to be some willingness to play ball with us. So if that happens, we'll cover it.
Yeah, and we'll have some fun looking into that. When that time comes. I mean, I think it's important to just realize, look, this is not a team that is going to go balls to the wall at the deadline and just grab every single bat known to man. I think they could unload some bats, like we talked about with Rizzo and Glaber. I still have not ruled out that. Although, Glaber had a nice day, the 3 RBI day off the home run. But I think, you have to be realistic here. And it goes back to what I was saying. If you feel like you can still win a World Series without Glaber Torres or without Anthony Rizzo, knowing those guys are in the final years of their deal, because let's be honest here, Rizzo's not coming back. Glaber might. We don't really see it, but there's at least a possibility there. He's 27 years old. They could make arguments to get themselves back into the discussion. Anthony Rizzo is not looking good right now. I know he had a hit today. That's great. Sacrifice fly, great. He's batting 221. His on-base percentage is 279. I don't even care about OPS at that point. If your on-base percentage isn't even 300, we have problems, okay? And everyone else in the lineup today had an on-base percentage over 300.
That
you know
is
who
accurate.
else has an on-base percentage over 300?
Who?
I would assume Jahmai Jones. I would assume pretty much anybody else on the roster. So Rizzo is kind of, alone in that. LeMahieu hasn't looked great either. So let me not sit here and say that, act like LeMahieu is, great as well. He's not. That's the thing, is that are the Yankees going to fine tune that bottom of the lineup, seeing that this is the best team that they've had since 2009, arguably? I think they could. I do want to touch on a thing that came up today. I know you saw it. Passan asking, Talking Jake from Talking Yanks about his thoughts on if the Yankees were to get Pete Alonso. Now, I don't remember exactly how I worded it, and I don't remember what episode it was, Gary, but I said I could see Pete Alonso in New York.
You did say this. Yeah.
I kind of like it because I don't think it would cost a ton. My only thing is, so Pete Alonso's hitting, he can hit. I don't know. I don't know how much that really helps because, Rizzo can hit home runs. His issue right now is just consistency. He just hasn't been great. But how good, and I'm asking you this, how good is Pete Alonso as a fielder? Is it enough to justify trading for him?
Yes.
It is? Because
Yep.
I don't know genuinely. I don't
here's
watch
the
him
thing.
enough.
Pete Alonso he's not going to be the most fleet of foot and some guy who's just going to go out and just pick it all over the field. Okay. I'm not expecting him to have crazy range over at first base. He's not a defensive first baseman. He's not terrible. Okay. But his job, you have to remember what Pete Alonso's job is. And his job, and he does it pretty consistently, he's going to hit 235. Okay. And he's going to hit 40 homers. Now, again, based on what the Yankees have been great at over the years, it's been having power right-handed bats. But as we've seen in the postseason, that doesn't exactly translate. Okay, you don't go face an ace of another team and just throw Pete Alonso up there and just hope, hey, hopefully he runs into one. But I will say this in his defense, these guys are absolutely awesome to have on your team. considering you're filling the other holes, you have other guys who can provide contact. You have Verdugos, you have Sotos, you have guys like maybe even Aaron Judge is considered more of a power guy and not a contact player. Hits for high average, but he will strike out. But the fit has to make sense. Pete Alonso has to be joining a team that doesn't struggle to put the ball in play. The Yankees in years past have struggled to put the ball in play. In my opinion, this year's Yankees team has enough contact wise to make this make somewhat of sense. That's what I'm saying. So I don't really give a shit what he does defensively at first base. He's not bad over there, but I will tell you this. Rizzo hasn't been very good over at first base this year, just
No,
defensively, right?
no,
Offensive
he
side,
hasn't.
I don't think he's been good at all at first. Maybe someone can convince me of some analytic that says Rizzo has been a better first baseman this year than Pete Alonso. But based on what I watch every single day with this team, I don't think Rizzo is playing that great of first base. At the very least, he's not playing his level that we're used to. So, having said that, if you're going to bring in somebody, yeah, it really just has to be league average defensively at first base. But the bat you're bringing in has to be a huge upgrade. Is Alonso a huge upgrade over Rizzo offensively? I think he is. So, yeah, I wouldn't hate it.
So I wouldn't hate it either. I think that would cost you probably Pereira, maybe Selvage. I think it costs you 2 top 10 prospects. They wouldn't have to be top notch. You're not going to get a ton for Pete Alonso. He isn't going to sign. I mean, it would be a rental because he's going to ask for a lot of money. He's 29 years old. He can hit 40 home runs. In the MLB in 2024, that's worth a lot of money. So the Yankees wouldn't bring him back. Also, it kind of complicates the potential plan, of moving Judge to first, which I still think it's still there. I still think Jason Dominguez is going to be in center field. I know he got, officially placed in AAA. There was a lot of misunderstanding about that. Turns out he actually was still on his rehab assignment. It was incorrectly tweeted out by the Yankees PR a few weeks ago that he had been optioned to AAA and that was the end of his rehab assignment. Turns out his rehab assignment just ended, was optioned to AAA. And I get, Boone saying all this, but and the Yankees have won 49 games, but you never want to take that for granted. And to kind of sit there and just be like, yeah, he's going to have his time. No, this is your chance to win a World Series. This is your chance. I don't think it's ever been this obvious since 2009. And I just can't at all understand how you look at Jason Dominguez, the way he's mashing in AAA right now. And because, we can look at it a bunch of different ways. You know how I look at it, Gary? There are a few different ways, but here's the first thing. The way he's playing right now, we don't know 100% if that is 100% going to translate the moment he's called up, right? We just don't. We don't know that. But there are guys that shouldn't even be in this lineup right now, that are in this lineup, that are not playing well, right? And you have this guy who you're telling me you can't find room for, and he's killing it. And my feeling is it doesn't hurt now because they're 49-21. But what if they go on a losing streak? Are you just going to be like, well, we got off to a really good start. We still don't need Jason Dominguez. We'll save him until October, whatever.
Well, wait a minute, Jake. Have you ever seen anyone easily win a World Series? Like it was easy?
No. Nope.
Never in your life, right?
No. Absolutely
not.
not.
Neither. So why wouldn't the best team? We're agreeing. We're in total agreement. The Yankees are the best team in the AL East. I would probably say in American League, absolutely the best team. But again, when the best team in baseball has an opportunity to get better, whether it be via trade or via pulling somebody up from AAA or AA, right? Why wouldn't you get better if you have that opportunity? Of course, you should be happy. The Yankees have won 49 games, probably going to be 50 tomorrow, sweeping the Kansas City Royals. We should all be thrilled about that, right? We should be elated. But again, when you're in a situation where there's a player who can make your team better, and again, in October, yeah, it's going to be sweaty. Okay. No team shows up and dominates. Just doesn't happen in this sport. Doesn't happen in hockey either. Okay. Doesn't happen in the NFL. There are plenty of sports where the difference between winning and losing is marginal. So why not focus on getting marginally better? In my opinion, Jason Dominguez absolutely makes this team better. And just saying, yeah, but it's marginal difference. And who really cares? We've won 49 games. Well, in October, if we fall just short and you feel like a player could have made somewhat of a difference, it's going to kill you, right? You're not going to sleep at night. So I will feel much better about what happens in October, win or loss, if they do everything that they can to put the most talent on the field. If Jason Dominguez ends up in center field by October and Aaron Judge is at first base, I'll know at least maybe that doesn't even happen. Maybe they just find some other way of getting Dominguez on the field. And I'll know, okay, the Yankees now are not focusing on these things that shouldn't matter. And they're actually putting the best players on the field. And, hopefully this works out. We never know. Again, it's baseball. But yeah, when people talk about we don't need Pete Alonso or we don't need Dominguez, look what we've got. Well, they must have not watched an October baseball before, right? Of how sweaty this can get. This is not easy. So, yeah, I'm just saying, Jake, it's hard to be desperate for these big trades, right? These big swing trades because we're winning, right? It's hard to say we should make trades when you're winning every night. But once the regular season is over, it's all even again. And then everybody's got to look at their rosters and say, okay, how do we match up with this team? So, yeah, I like that the wheels are spinning on this whole Alonso thing. I didn't see that with that conversation actually, but it's at the very least interesting. And I actually want to know what people think about it.
Yeah, I mean, Passan bringing it up out of the blue like that. And Jake responded saying he wants Ryan McMahon.
Okay.
I feel like Ryan McMahon fits the Yankees for what they're doing right now. We had mentioned him before. At the time, it didn't really make much sense. Now, Birdie since got hurt, I could see it. McMahon also seems like the perfect guy to trade away. Like if you're the Rockies, you feel great about moving him and getting pieces because it doesn't feel sustainable with him. I'm not saying he's a bad player. The way he's playing right now does not feel sustainable. And so I don't know if he would be as great of a fit as maybe he's made out to be. Alonso, he already plays in New York, but instead of being the guy, instead of being Polar Pete, he could hide behind Volpe, Soto, Judge, Stanton, Cole, Heel. I mean, he's just a guy at that point.
He's hitting behind Lindor. That is no type of tandem at all. Then nothing to be worried about.
Yeah. So I feel like he's already tasted what it is to play in New York, but now he'd have all the pressure off him. Verdugo as well, who's just he's been playing better. So I actually like the idea of going after him, especially Pereira doesn't really, I don't see any pathway for Pereira at this point. I like him. Trust me, I like him. I said that. Pereira has no pathway. If you're keeping Jason Dominguez and you're keeping Spencer Jones and you have Verdugo right now, right? And you have Cabrera who can also play in the outfield and Judge and Stanton and Soto. Where is Pereira? Pereira doesn't have a spot. So he would be probably the focal point in that package. Unfortunately, we're just, being honest here. But to wrap this thing up, the biggest concern I have with Jason Dominguez being in AAA is imagine one day you're sitting there, the Yankees are sitting there, they got 80 wins, first team to 80. They're 5 games ahead of the Phillies for best record in the league. And you're like, wow, just wait until Jason Dominguez comes up. And then breaking news, Jason Dominguez out for season, injured in AAA. See, people will just, come back. The people that are obsessed with him being in AAA for whatever reason will come back at me and say, well, that would be just as bad if it happened in the major leagues. I absolutely disagree. I am going to equate this very simple. I'm going to equate this to football and why all the time, week 18 or used to be week 17, when you have, say, Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, and they have the number one seed and they have clinched a playoff berth, they have clinched the number one seed, home field advantage, all that. Tom Brady is not playing in a meaningless game that does nothing for his team, right? I think we can all agree on that. We've seen that. Guys sit. We saw last year, Brock Purdy, Matthew Stafford sat the game, Rams 49ers. Meaningless. Nothing could change. So the idea of playing them in a meaningless game, and I don't mean to call AAA meaningless, but come on now.
Well, it is when you're not a damn prospect.
This team has a chance to win a freaking World Series this year. And Jason Dominguez, whether people want to admit it or not, is putting his body on the line every single night, coming off a major injury. And people are just like, well, why do we look at like AAA as like it's a walk in the park? He still has to run the bases. He still has to make contact. He's still moving his body laterally. He still, when he's leading off first, we saw Acuna, okay? There are so many different ways to get injured. And it just bothers me, Gary. That's all I'm going to say. I want to leave it at that. To have him just sitting there in AAA and you're just hoping he doesn't get hurt, it's not the same as hoping he doesn't get hurt in the majors, okay? Getting hurt in AAA.
Short, Rizzo is not a good enough defensive player at first base to just say we can't move him out of first base. That's what I'm saying. Rizzo used to be an excellent first baseman. I still think he's good. He's better than kind of what we're getting him credit for. He's a little more sure-handed because, again, we are the great microscope playing for the Yankees. It's difficult to play here. We have podcasts out the wazoo. Everyone's got a mic and headphones. Okay. We're all talking about every play. Everyone blows donkey cheeks one day because they made an error. And then the next day they hit two bombs, right? Like Glaber. Torres was on the trade block for most of Yankees Twitter and Yankees podcast yesterday. He has 2 RBIs, 3 RBIs today. And now people are like, see, we should bring him back. And then tomorrow he's going to be right back on the block, right? So, the Yankees are in a situation where they've got one player that's not really excellent at either position, right? He's not great defensively. He's not great offensively. Well, you know who is excellent offensively? Jason Dominguez. You know who is exceptional defensively? Jason Dominguez. Well, you need to find a spot for that type of player. We've talked about there's certain guys, there's log jams and there's nowhere to play them, so we might have to trade him. Jason Dominguez is one of those players that the Yankees have to find a spot for. I don't really give a damn about timing with Verdugo and Judge and Rizzo. Don't spare me with the timing. Put the best players on the field. We're excited, happy, elated for the 49 wins we've already registered, right? And we're probably going to go get 50 tomorrow. But again, when the season's over, all that is wiped away. And it's back to looking at our roster and we can say, do we have the best players on the field? Do we put everyone in the perfect position? Because these games are going to be tight. It's going to be 3-2, 2-1, 1-0. Garrett Cole's on the mound. It might be one swing that's the difference between the Yankees hoisting their 28th championship and going on another 10-year winless streak, right? So that's the reason why we're so... how do you say it, Jake? We are just adamant about putting Jason Dominguez on the field and not wasting him away in AAA.
It's been 15
we're
years.
not.
I think
It's been a long time. A long time.
We've seen it. We've seen, this team has it all. And then they, someone says something where maybe they should make this move. And like, no, they're going to stand pat. They have it all. Or maybe they make a move that hurts. We've seen it all. So to this point, I just think this is kind of a no-brainer. It doesn't take a lot to just say, hey, Jason Dominguez is a 5-tool player, okay? Find me all the 5-tool players that are ahead of him, okay? Volpe is not a 5-tool player, does not have the pop Jason Dominguez has. He's got 4. He has a chance, doesn't have it right now. He is a 4-tool player. Soto, 5-tool player. Judge, I would say 5-tool player. Now, Is he stealing 20, 30, 40 bags? No. Could he do it if he had to? I think he could. We've seen it.
I would say Soto and Judge are 4 tool players because I would say Judge can run. You just don't really want him to run. I don't want to see him run. But Dominguez is a player who can go out and go 30-30. Like he's actually gonna hit 2
and there's
for
not
the
really
Yankees,
anybody
right?
on the roster that could do that. Like,
not really.
Like I said,
no.
Judge is capable. Soto is capable. They just don't run enough for you to say they are that. Like, I think it's Dominguez, and I think of like Ken Griffey Jr. Like that's the level of player that we're talking about here. If he pans out, like that's that type of player, can steal bases, plus fielder, power.
Think about my comp.
I mean,
who's my comp for Jason Dominguez? I mean, in my opinion, I just look at a player who's got the physical skill set to be Byron Buxton without getting hurt every year. Byron Buxton, we talked about him earlier this year. He's a superstar. Byron Buxton he's an MVP candidate if he could just stay on the field, and he just can't, right? We've talked about how good he is. He can throw, he can run, right? He's got pop. Dominguez showed last year he's got all those things, all those tools. Anything you want him to do, he can drop down a bunt. He can go the other way. He can go 450 to dead right field in the upper deck, right? So having said that, you can't say all that shit about Rizzo. Rizzo's a good player in this league. He's a professional at bat. One day, of course, he's going to be inconsistent, and that's fine. But you know who would be less inconsistent? Jason Dominguez. So yeah, we have an upgrade, and it's pretty obvious to make.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. There's no point of even denying it at this rate.
If he was taller, we'd just throw him at first base, wouldn't we?
5'9" is not going to cut it, but
it is not.
You know, I'm 5'8".
5'9", still your mom's at the door going like this to you, like drawing with the. They've still got the ruler on. You're on your tiptoes. Yeah, 5'9", and I'm not making fun of people who are 5'9". I'm like 5'10" with shoes on. So my wife would tell you I'm 5'8.5", but I'm 5'10".
I'm 5'8", maybe 5'9" with shoes. But here's the deal, okay? Would you want me playing first base?
I would not.
Like, no. And I wouldn't want
that
you
is
playing
with all
first
due
base.
respect.
With all due respect. No. I want my first baseman to be at least 6 feet.
Yeah.
At least.
Totally agree.
Really, Judge is the perfect size. We'll see what they do. I wouldn't rule out. I mentioned Pete Alonso early on in the year. I feel like that's always been a possibility. Would be a rental, but yeah, I think that's the most comfortable spot, I think, for him. But yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. But that's going to do it. As for the Yankees tomorrow, they play at 2:10. That's Gary's favorite time. Well, at least it's not 1:10, I guess. Or 12:05. Can you imagine that? So yeah, the Yankees are going to play the Royals. Last game of a 4-game set tomorrow, 2:10. It's going to be Nestor Cortez and his 3.68 ERA, 1.12 WHIP, taking on Alec Marsh with a 4.05 ERA and a 1.17 WHIP. Marsh is 5-3 on the year. Cortez is 3-5. I give the Yankees another win. I think they're going to sweep them. I said it yesterday. I'm going to stick with it. I think they're going to sweep them. I think Bobby Witt Jr. probably goes yard in this game. I think he is going to have another really good game. And it's just kind of really, it's a microcosm of what the Royals really are. So that's how I feel. I think we could see another Judge homer, but I think regardless, the Yankees have shown they can win in every single way in the series. And I'm pretty sure they've unloaded not only the bullpen, but also the bench every which way in this series as well. So that's all I got.
Yep. And like this video.